Hey everyone, I hope you guys are doing well and keeping safe. Welcome to another exciting episode of Tangle in Tech, where you and I try and figure out the best tech for you. If this is your first time here, do consider subscribing to the channel to get the latest updates on tech. For those of you who missed out my last video on unboxing and first impressions on the MacBook Air, I suggest you pause this video, go back on that one, take a good look and then come back again. And don't worry, we'll wait for you. Well, I've been using the MacBook Air with the latest M1 chip for the last 1 week, and here are my thoughts on it. Before we get started, spoiler alert, this by far is my favorite piece of tech launched in the year 2020. And that's a big statement since we did see some really incredible pieces of tech being launched this year. So let's break it down into 7 different categories, which I think will make all the difference for you to decide whether you should get your hands on this piece of tech. So before we dig into it, let's roll that intro. So let's start with design. Apple decided to keep the same design as last year, and well, that really makes sense since this year was all about focusing on that M1 chip, what it was capable of. I personally absolutely love the sleek design, and it's remarkable what this small, tiny piece of device is capable of. So one of the biggest complaints this year regarding the design is having just 2 ports. With the kind of money that you pay for this device and what it's capable of, you would hope that you would at least have 4 ports as the last devices. This is understandable because the way M1 chip is designed, currently we can get only 2 ports, but it's going to be interesting to see what Apple comes up with when it's upgrading its other models in next year. So overall, design-wise, it's pretty much the same thing. We have only 2 ports, and we're hoping that the next generation comes up with more. So this year, MacBook Air does see a slight upgrade in its display. The display upgrade from a full standard color to a P3 wide color gamut, which basically increased color by 25%. So that's a small upgrade in display as well. Next, we have the camera. This is the biggest complaint on this device, that in the year, in fact, the end of 2020, we still have a 720p camera, which is insane. I mean, we have a much better camera on the iPhones that we have. However, Apple claims that because of software updates, the image quality will improve, but it's 720p. How much can it improve? The new M1 chip in the MacBook Air comes with 8-core CPU and up to 8-core GPU. 7-core GPU if you opt for the entry-level MacBook Air, which I personally feel you shouldn't go for. Go at least for the 512 SSD with the 8-core CPU and an 8-core GPU. The reason being is that this is the same chip that goes in all devices up to the fully upgraded MacBook Pro. So it's the same chip. So performance wise, as far as the chip is concerned, it's the same chip. So at least go in for the 512 GB SSD and the 8-core CPU and the 8-core GPU. Now this chip or these cores translate to about 3.5 times faster CPU performance and up to 5 times faster GPU performance, which in the real world translates to you being able to edit 4K videos without any issues on the MacBook Air. Now these are 2 words, the MacBook Air and 4K, I never thought I would be able to use in the same sentence. Personally, I was completely blown away by the performance of this machine. The tiny size and the fact that it's fanless with absolutely no noise, and its capability was absolutely amazing. Video editing was an absolute breeze on this one, with no stutter during playback, and exporting the video was very quick. All this performance, of course, is assuming that you are using all the native apps, or at least the apps that have been updated to work well with the M1 chip. However, if you go in for apps that are not yet migrated into the whole M1 ecosystem, you might find a little bit of an issue, at least until it's resolved. And like I said earlier, one of the best features of this MacBook Air is this amazing performance. Comes with an absolute no noise whatsoever, since this MacBook Air does not have any fan or any cooling system in it. Though the M1 chip is extremely efficient, pushing it beyond a certain point may cause some thermal throttling, as we do not have any sort of cooling available in this system. So in case, say, you're editing multiple videos a day, I would personally suggest that you go in for the Pro. So overall, the performance of this device is extremely good, and Apple's claims on performance of this device, well, I'll give it to them. Next, we have battery life. Now this again is another big improvement, in fact massive improvement that we've seen this year from Apple. Apple claims that the MacBook Air would now have up to 15 hours of web browsing and up to 18 hours of video playback, which is 6 hours or 30% more than the last one. In its real world testing, I was completely blown away by the battery performance of this device. In my regular usage, it easily gave me up to 2 days of battery life, and in case I used it for video editing or some heavy usage, it easily lasted me between a day and a half depending upon my usage. So according to me, the battery life improvement is so big that in case Apple had just made this improvement this year and nothing else, it would still be worth upgrading to this device. So the battery life is off the charts, especially for its size. I was using the iPad Pro 12-inch as my daily driver, and even that required about 2 to 3 times of charging every day with heavy usage. So Apple's claims on battery life are absolutely spot on. Now with all the MacBooks with the M1 chip, you can now download a lot of iPad and iPhone apps from the App Store as long as the developers allow it. And slowly a lot of developers are allowing their iPad and iPhone apps to be downloaded and used on your MacBook Air, or in fact any MacBook with the M1 chip. Now this is great news. The reason being is iPad is a brilliant device, but a lot of users like me love the device, but we couldn't really place it in our lives. I often found myself going back to my MacBook Pro. I couldn't completely get rid of my MacBook Pro, neither could I completely transfer all my work on the iPad. There was always this gap that the iPad was not able to fill. Now with all these apps that were being used on the iPad available on your MacBook Air, you may start considering getting rid of an entire device from your ecosystem. Now soon it may be possible to have all your favorite apps under the same hood with great performance and great battery life, and not having multiple devices in your workflow and just having one device. These are the 7 categories which I think you must consider before buying yourself the latest MacBooks with the M1 chip. Let me know in the comment section what you feel is one of the best features of the MacBooks this year with the M1 chip. Guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. In case you did, do not forget to like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you on the next one.